The instrument panel vibrated. Every dial, every gauge, every rivet in the cockpit of the F-6F Hellcat shook with the 18-cylinder radial engine's growl. Wesley Holbrook's hands trembled on the stick. Not from the engine, from fear. 47 hours, that was all the flight time he had. 47 hours between a Nebraska cornfield and this moment 6 miles above the Philippine Sea, hunting men who wanted to kill him. The radio crackled, static. Then a voice tight with urgency. "Bandits, 70 miles heading 270, count 69. I repeat, 69 bandits inbound." Wes looked up through the canopy. The sky ahead was blue, empty, peaceful, for now. His wingman's voice cut through, Commander Dutch Kowalski calm, almost bored. "Kid, you stay glued to my 6. You hear me? You do not separate. You do not chase. You follow me." Wes keyed his mic. His voice cracked. "Yes, sir." "And Holbrook." "Sir." "Don't die on your first day, makes me look bad." Dawn, 47 hours. 6 months ago, Wesley Holbrook had been steering a John Deere combine through wheat fields outside Grand Island, Nebraska. The machine weighed 3 tons. It moved at 4 miles per hour. When something went wrong, you stopped. You fixed it. You kept going. Simple. The Navy had promised him the same thing. Follow procedure. Trust your training. Keep going. They lied. Nothing about this was simple. The date was June 19, 1944. The place was 200 miles west of the Mariana Islands. The mission was to stop the largest Japanese carrier strike force assembled since Midway. 473 aircraft, 9 carriers, the entire remaining strength of Imperial Japanese naval aviation throwing itself at the American invasion fleet off Saipan. Wes was one of 956 American pilots standing between those Japanese planes and 15,000 Marines on the beaches below. He was 19 years old. He'd never fired his guns at another human being, and in approximately 8 minutes he would either become a killer or a casualty. The story of how a farm boy from Nebraska ended up here begins like most war stories with a death. May 7th, 1942. The telegram arrived at the Holbrook farm on a Tuesday. Western Union. Yellow paper. 23 words that ended one life and changed another. The Navy Department deeply regrets to inform you that your son, Lieutenant Marcus Holbrook, was killed in action during operations in the Coral Sea. Marcus, 4 years older, the smart one, the one who'd gotten out. University of Nebraska ROTC commission as a naval aviator. He'd sent letters home describing carrier operations, the incredible machines he flew, the adventure of it all. Those letters had made Wes jealous. The telegram made him furious. Their mother cried for 3 days. Their father said nothing, just worked, plowing, planting, fixing fence, as if motion could somehow fill the hole. Wes lasted 2 weeks. On May the 22nd, he walked into the Navy recruiting office in Grand Island. He was 18. Barely. The recruiter looked him up and down. Farm tan, calloused hands, strong back. "You finish high school, son?" "Yes, sir." "You want to avenge your brother?" Wes met his eyes. "I want to finish what he started." The recruiter nodded. He'd heard that line before. He'd hear it 10,000 more times before the war ended. "Sign here." Flight training began in July, Pensacola, Florida. The humidity hit Wes like a wet towel. Nebraska had heat, sure, but Nebraska heat was dry. Honest, you could work through it. Florida heat stuck to your skin, filled your lungs, made you feel like you were drowning in air. The instructors were merciless. Primary flight training, 6 weeks, half the class washed out, Wes barely passed. His landings were rough, his formation flying was sloppy. One instructor wrote in his evaluation, "Flies like a farmer, stiff on the controls, lacks natural feel." But he didn't quit. And in wartime, persistence counts more than elegance. Advanced training, fighters, the F-6F Hellcat, a massive machine 12,000 pounds designed to do one thing: kill Japanese Zeros. The instructors drilled them. Speed is life. Altitude is life insurance. Never turn with a zero. Never, never, never turn with a 0. Wes asked, why? The instructor, a scar-faced veteran of Guadalcanal, had looked at him like he was stupid. Because the 0 turns tighter than you. Tighter than anything that flies. You try to dogfight one, you'll lose every time. You use your speed, you use your altitude, you dive, you shoot, you climb, boom and zoom. That's it, that's the whole war. Wes nodded, but something about it bothered him. If you can't turn with them, he thought, and they can turn. Better, doesn't that mean they control the fight? He didn't ask. You don't ask stupid questions when you're barely passing. In April of '44, fresh out of training, Wes received his orders. USS Kalinin Bay, CVE 68, escort carrier, Casablanca class, not one of the big fleet carriers, not Lexington or Enterprise or the famous names. A baby flat top, 512 feet long, converted from a merchant hull. Maximum speed, 19 knots. Aircraft capacity, 28. When Wes first saw her at San Diego, his heart sank. She looked like a cargo ship someone had welded a flight deck onto, which was exactly what she was. The other pilots called ships like Kalinin Bay jeep carriers, or less kindly, Kaiser coffins, after the shipyard that built them fast and cheap. Wes reported aboard on April the 16th. The air wing commander was a man named Dutch Kowalski, commander, 45 years old, a Navy lifer who'd been flying since before Wes was born. He had a square jaw, eyes that never stopped moving, and a handshake that could crack walnuts. Their first meeting was in the ready room. Kowalski looked up from a clipboard. You Holbrook? Yes, sir. Marcus Holbrook's brother? Yes, sir. Kowalski studied him for a long moment. Your brother was a good stick. Flew SBDs off Lexington, died buying time for the task force to escape. I know, sir. You here to die like him? Wes blinked. Sir, I asked if you're here to be a hero, to go down in flames like your brother, because if that's what you want, there are faster ways. No, sir, I'm here to fight. Fighting means staying alive, kid. Dead heroes don't shoot down Japs, you understand? Yes, sir. Kowalski tossed him a manual. Read it. Know it. Your life depends on it. The manual was titled Fighter Tactics Against the Zero. Wes read it that night, and the next night, and the night after that. It all said the same thing. Never turn with a 0. Kalinin Bay spent May working up off Hawaii. Practice launches, practice landings, gunnery runs against towed targets. Wes struggled. His carrier landings were terrifying. The deck of a CVE was short. 500 feet. The Hellcat needed 400 to stop. That left 100 feet of margin. If you came in hot, if you missed the wire, you went into the barrier. Or worse, over the side. Wes caught the 3-wire 11 times out of 15. The other 4 he bolted, waved off, had to go around and try again. Kowalski pulled him aside after one practice session. You're thinking too much. Sir, you're flying like you're plowing a field. Steady, careful, but a carrier deck is moving, the ship is moving, the air is moving. You can't think your way to the deck. You have to feel it. I'm trying, sir. Try harder, because in combat, you'll be doing this with battle damage, with wounded men bleeding out in the back, with fuel on fumes. And if you can't land when it's easy, you sure as hell can't land when it's hard. Wes nodded. He went back to his bunk that night and stared at the overhead. Feeling. He was supposed to feel it. How do you feel something you've never experienced? By June, Kalinin Bay was deemed ready for combat. Barely. They sailed west, Pearl Harbor, Eniwetok, Kwajalein. Islands with names Wes couldn't pronounce following a war he only half understood. The plan, as explained in briefings, was straightforward. Invade the Mariana Islands. Saipan, Tinian, Guam, take them. Build airfields. Use those airfields to base B-29 bombers. Use those bombers to burn Japan's cities until Tokyo surrendered. The Japanese plan was simpler. Stop us. Admiral Jisaburo Ozawa commanded the first mobile fleet. 9 carriers, 473 aircraft. Every pilot they could scrape together from training schools, garrison units, and reserves. Intelligence reports said the Japanese were desperate. Most of their experienced pilots were dead. killed at Midway, at Guadalcanal, at Rabaul, in 100 nameless skirmishes across the Pacific. The replacements were green. Some had less than 100 hours of flight time. Wes had 47 hours when he qualified. He didn't feel superior to them. He felt terrified for them. On the night of June 18th, Captain Raymond Vickers, the skipper of Kalinin Bay, addressed the crew over the PA system. "Men, tomorrow we will engage the Japanese carrier fleet in what may be the largest naval air battle of the war. Our job is simple: launch our fighters, intercept their strikes, protect the landing force. Intelligence estimates the Japanese have committed their entire remaining carrier air strength to this operation. We will meet them, we will stop them, and we will send them to the bottom. That is all." In the ready room, pilots sat in silence. Someone made a joke. Nervous laughter. Kowalski stood up. "Listen up. You've all read the tactical bulletins. You know the Japanese pilots are green, but green doesn't mean harmless. A zero flown by a rookie can still kill you if you're stupid. So don't be stupid. Don't turn with them. Don't chase glory. Stick together. Boom and zoom. We do this right, we all go home." Questions. A pilot raised his hand. "What if they outnumber us?" "They will outnumber us. They outnumber us right now. Doesn't matter. We've got better planes, better training, better tactics, and we've got radar. They'll never surprise us. We'll see them coming, we'll get altitude, and we'll murder them before they know what hit them." Wes wanted to believe him. That night, he couldn't sleep. He lay in his rack listening to the thrum of the ship's engines, the creak of the hull, the sound of men breathing in the darkness. Somewhere out there, 473 Japanese pilots were doing the same thing, lying awake, thinking about tomorrow, wondering if they'd live to see the sunset. Wes thought about his brother. Marcus had been brave. Everyone said so. He'd flown into hell and bought time with his life. Wes didn't feel brave. He felt small, alone, like a fraud in a uniform. At 04:30, reveille sounded. The cook served pancakes and eggs. Wes couldn't eat. His stomach was a knot. At 0600, the ready room briefing. Kowalski pointed to a map. "The Japanese fleet is here, 150 miles west-northwest. They'll launch at dawn. We expect first contact around 0830. We'll scramble all fighters. Combat air patrol overhead. Strike fighters forward to intercept. Primary targets torpedo bombers. Secondary dive bombers. Zeros are third priority unless they engage. Everyone clear?" Nods all around. "Holbrook," Wes looked up. "Sir." "You're on my wing. Stay tight. Don't freelance. Don't be a hero." "Yes, sir." At 0715, the call came. "Fighter pilots, man your aircraft." Wes climbed into his Hellcat. Number 17. Deck crew helped strap him in, checked his harness, plugged in his radio, gave him a thumbs up. The engine roared to life. 18 cylinders. 2,200 horsepower. The whole plane shook like a living thing. Kalinin Bay turned into the wind. 19 knots of ship speed, plus 15 knots of wind. 34 knots across the deck. Just enough. The flight deck officer waved the wands. "Wind up. Launch." Kowalski's Hellcat rolled forward. 10 feet. 20. 30. Clawed into the air. Climbed. Wes was next. He pushed the throttle forward. The Hellcat surged. The deck blurred beneath him. Wind screamed over the canopy. And then the deck ended. Empty air. A moment of sickening drop. The Hellcat caught. Lifted. Flew. Wes exhaled. He'd launched off carriers 24 times in training. This time felt different. This time, someone was trying to kill him. At 0820, the radar operators on the cruiser USS Lexington picked up contacts. 70 miles out, bearing 270, count 69 aircraft. The first wave. Kowalski's voice came through Wes's headset. Calm, professional. "All fighters, this is Dutchman. Bogies inbound heading 270, 70 miles. Climb to Angels 20. Intercept and engage. Stay in pairs. Watch your 6. Good hunting." Wes pushed the throttle to climb power. The Hellcat nosed up. 1,600 feet per minute. The altimeter unwound. 5,000 feet. 10,000, 15, 20. Angels 20, 20,000 feet. 4 miles high. The air was thin, cold. Wes could see the curve of the earth. Below the ocean was a blue-grey sheet dotted with wakes from American ships. Somewhere out there, 69 Japanese aircraft were coming to sink those ships, to kill those Marines on Saipan. And Wes had to stop them. His hands weren't shaking anymore. At 60 miles, Wes saw them, not individual planes, a smudge on the horizon, dark, a swarm. Kowalski's voice. Tally-ho, bogey's 11 o'clock level. Looks like Val's and Kate's escorted by Zeke's. We take the Zeke's first. Draw them off the bombers, on me! The formation dove. Wes followed. The Hellcat accelerated. 250 knots. 300. 350. The smudge became shapes. Wings, silhouettes, zeros, 8 of them, circling above the bombers, Kowalski called it. Engage. And the sky exploded. Tracers. White streaks, red tracers, planes, tumbling, rolling, turning. Wes had trained for this, he'd practiced, he'd memorized the manuals, none of it mattered. Chaos, pure chaos. A Zero flashed past 10 feet away. Wes flinched, pulled the stick. His Hellcat rolled, Kowalski's voice shouting, Holbrook on me, don't separate! Wes looked left, right. Where was Kowalski there? 500 feet ahead, diving on a Zero, guns hammering. The Zero broke left, smoking. Wes tried to follow. Another Zero appeared in his windscreen, head on, firing. Wes mashed the trigger. 6 50 caliber machine guns erupted. The sound was deafening even through the headset. The Zero kept coming. Wes pulled up, hard. G-forces crushed him into the seat. Vision tunneling, grey, creeping in at the edges. The Zero flashed underneath, missed by feet. Wes leveled out. Gasping. Kowalski's voice. Kid, where are you? I don't know. Find me, now. Wes looked around. Planes everywhere. Friendlies, enemies. Impossible to tell at a glance. Then he saw Kowalski's Hellcat. The number on the tail. 41. Wes turned toward it, pushed the throttle. Wes. A Zero latched onto his tail. He didn't see it, didn't know. Not until tracers zipped past his canopy. White streaks, so close he could feel the heat. Instinct took over, the wrong instinct. Every manual said, don't turn with a Zero. Wes turned. He yanked the stick hard left. The Hellcat groaned, rolled into a steep bank. Wes grunted against the G-forces. The Zero followed easily, smoothly, and it was gaining. Tighter turn radius, that was what the Zero had. It could turn inside the Hellcat. Inside anything. Wes pulled harder. 6 Gs. 7. His vision grayed, blood draining from his brain. The Zero stayed glued to his tail. Tracers walked up his right wing. Sparks, holes appearing in the metal. Wes was going to die. Then Kowalski appeared, out of nowhere, diving vertical, guns blazing. The Zero broke off, rolled away, smoking. Kowalski's voice furious. What did I tell you? Sir, I said don't turn. You turn with a Zero, you die. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Get back to the ship. Now, you're done. Sir, I can still... That's an order, Holbrook. RTB now. Wes looked at his wing. 7 holes, hydraulic fluid leaking. But the engine was running. Controls responded. He could still fight. But orders were orders. He turned east, toward Kalinin Bay, descended. Behind him, the air battle raged. The flight back took 20 minutes. 20 minutes to think about what he'd done wrong. He'd panicked. He'd turned. He'd nearly died. Kowalski had saved him, and Kowalski was right. The manuals were right. Don't turn with a Zero. But as Wes flew, something nagged at him. He replayed the moment in his head. The Zero on his tail. The turn. The Zero had turned tighter, but it had also slowed down. He remembered the feel of it. The Zero had been inside his turn radius, yes, but it had bled speed to do it. When Kowalski dove on it, the Zero had broken off. It hadn't tried to outturn Kowalski. It had run because it was slow. Wes thought about it. Zeros turn tighter, but turning bleeds speed. So after a hard turn, they're slow. Vulnerable. What if you didn't try to outturn them? What if you let them think they were winning, let them commit to the turn, let them bleed speed? And then you came back at them. It was a stupid idea. Probably. The manuals said, boom and zoom, dive, shoot, climb. Don't engage in turning fights. But the manuals assumed one-on-one. What if you had a wingman? What if one pilot played bait? Wes landed on Kalinin Bay at 0940. The landing signal officer gave him a cut signal. Wes chopped the throttle, dropped, caught the 3-wire. He taxied to the side, shut down, climbed out. The deck crew chief whistled. Holy hell, Ensign, you tangle with a Zero. Yeah. Lucky to be alive. Yeah. Wes walked past the island superstructure. His legs felt like rubber. Through an open hatch, he glimpsed the ship's infirmary. Lieutenant Dorothy Crane, the medical officer, was treating a wounded gunner. Shrapnel in the shoulder from a near miss. She worked quickly, efficiently, her hands steady even as the ship rolled. Wes had met her briefly during check-in, 27 years old, Yale Medical School, one of maybe 15 female officers serving on combat ships in the entire Pacific Fleet. The crew didn't talk about her being a woman. They talked about her being good. The gunner would live because of her skill. Wes kept walking. He had his own wounds to deal with, not physical ones, the kind that bled inside. In the ready room, Kowalski was already back, standing by the coffee pot. He didn't look at Wes. Sir, Save it. Kowalski's voice was flat. You screwed up. You know it. I know it. Let's move on. Sir, I was thinking. That's your problem, Holbrook. You think too much. In combat, you react. You follow training. You don't invent tactics. But, sir, I noticed something. Kowalski turned. What? The Zero. When it turned on me, it slowed down. Of course it slowed down. Turning bleed speed. Everyone knows that. Right, but what if we used that? What if one of us baited the Zero into a turn and the other waited for it to slow down? Kowalski stared at him. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, you mean like a defensive scissors? A what? Scissors. It's a tactic used in Europe. One fighter baits, the other shoots, but it requires timing, coordination, trust. Could it work against Zeros? Kowalski sipped his coffee. Maybe, in theory, but you're green, kid. 47 hours. You really think you can bait a Zero pilot without dying? Wes met his eyes. I think if I don't try something more, people die. Outside on the flight deck, sirens wailed. The radar had picked up another contact, Wave 2, 130 aircraft, and they were coming. Kowalski set his coffee down, slowly, like a man making a decision he might regret. You want to try your theory? Yes, sir. You understand what you're proposing? You want to fly straight at Japanese fighters. Make yourself bait. Trust me to shoot them before they shoot you. That's right, sir. And if I'm a second late, then I'm dead, sir. Kowalski studied him. The ready room was filling with other pilots, exhausted, wide-eyed. One had blood on his flight suit, not his own. The teletype clattered. New report from radar. Wave 2, 130 aircraft bearing 265, range 85 miles, bigger than the first wave, almost twice as big. The air operations officer stuck his head in. All pilots, scramble, repeat, all pilots, scramble. Kowalski grabbed his helmet, looked at Wes. Stay on my wing. If I say break, you break. If I say run, you run. Understood? Yes, sir. And Holbrook? Sir. Don't make me regret this. They launched at 09:55, 12 Hellcats from Kalinin Bay, 34 more from other carriers in the task force, 46 fighters total against 130 attackers. The math was bad, but the Americans had altitude, they had speed, they had radar guidance vectoring them straight to the intercept point. And now maybe they had something else, an idea from a farm boy with 47 hours. Wes climbed. The Hellcat clawed for altitude. His damaged wing had been patched with speed tape. The hydraulic leak was slow. The plane would fly. For now. At Angels 22, Kowalski leveled off. Dutchman to all fighters, bogies, inbound 60 miles, looks like a mixed bag. Val's, Kate's, Judy's, escorted by Zeke's. We're going after the escorts, break them up, let the bombers through to the cap. Someone rogered. Then another. Voices crackling through static. Wes keyed his mic. Dutchman Holbrook. Permission to try the bait tactic. Silence. 3 seconds. 5. Then, negative. Stay in formation. Wes's heart sank. But Kowalski wasn't finished. Wait for my mark. When I say go, you go straight and level. I'll be high. Any Zeke that takes your bait, I'll splash. But you hold course, no matter what. Copy. Copy. And kid, sir, this works, you buy the drinks. This fails, I'm telling your mother I got you killed. 50 miles out, Wes saw them, darker this time, bigger. A swarm that blotted out part of the sky. Kowalski's voice. Zeke's high, count 12, we're going in. The Hellcats dove, 300 knots, 350, 400. The Japanese formation scattered. Zeros peeled off, climbed to meet them. Kowalski called it. Holbrook now, straight and level, make yourself pretty. Wes leveled out at 18,000 feet, throttled back to 200 knots. Slow, vulnerable, every instinct screamed at him to maneuver, to jink, to do something. He flew straight. 5 seconds. 10. A zero appeared at his 4 o'clock, closing fast. Wes saw it in his mirror, the distinctive shape, rounded wingtips, the red meatball on the fuselage. The zero opened fire, 20mm cannon, tracers arcing. Wes gripped the stick, held course. The tracers passed behind him. The zero pilot corrected, led the target more, closer. 300 yards, 250. Wes wanted to brake, wanted to turn, wanted to do anything except fly straight into gunfire. He held. The zero pulled lead, nose tracking, guns ready to fire. And then it happened. Kowalski dove out of the sun. Vertical dive. 7,000 feet of altitude converted to pure speed. 600 knots. His guns opened up at 400 yards. 50 caliber tracers, white phosphorus, a river of fire. The zero never saw him. The first burst walked across the zero's engine. Sparks, smoke, metal tearing. The second burst hit the cockpit. The canopy shattered. The zero rolled inverted. Fell, spinning, no recovery. Splash 1. Kowalski's voice. It worked. Holy hell, it actually worked. Wes exhaled. His hands were shaking again, but not from fear, from adrenaline. Again, he asked. Again. Light 'em up, kid. They did it twice more. Each time Wes flew straight. Each time a zero took the bait. Each time Kowalski appeared from nowhere and killed it. Splash 2, splash 3. Other pilots were watching, listening on the radio. A voice crackled through. Dutchman, what the hell is your wingman doing? Fishing, Kowalski replied. And the fish are biting. Can we try that? Kowalski paused. Then, all sections new tactic. One plane baits, one plane shoots. Bait flies straight and slow. Shooter stays high and ready. Zeeks will go after the bait every time. Let them commit, then kill them. Across the formation, American fighters paired up. Bait and shooter. Bait and shooter. The sky became a shooting gallery. Zeros flown by pilots with 50 hours of training saw easy targets. Slow Hellcats flying straight. They dove in for the kill. And died again and again and again. The Japanese bomber formations broke apart. Without escort, vulnerable, other American fighters tore into them. The big slow Vals and Kates stood no chance. At 10:15, the Japanese second wave ceased to exist. 130 aircraft launched. 32 returned. 98 shot down in less than 30 minutes. Wes landed back on Kalinin Bay at 10:40. This time, there were no holes in his plane. Kowalski landed behind him, climbed out, walked over. He didn't say anything, just clapped Wes on the shoulder. The deck crew was cheering. They'd been listening on the radio. They'd heard what happened. In the ready room, Captain Vickers was waiting. Commander Kowalski, Ensign Holbrook, well done. Thank you, sir. And Vickers looked at Wes. I'm told this new tactic was your idea. Yes, sir. Sort of. I just noticed something. Commander Kowalski made it work? Vickers nodded. The task force commander wants to know if we can replicate it. Third wave is inbound. 47 aircraft this time. Smaller, but still dangerous. Kowalski looked at Wes. Can we do it again? Yes, sir. Tired? Wes was exhausted. His arms ached, his head pounded. His eyes burned from the high-altitude glare. No, sir. Kowalski smiled. Thin, tired. Liar, but a useful one. Let's go kill some more. They launched at 11:30. Wave 3 was different. The Japanese had learned. Fewer Zeros this time. More bombers, and they were coming in low, trying to slip under the radar coverage. It didn't matter. The Americans had enough fighters now, enough altitude, and they had the tactic. Wes flew bait 4 more times. 4 more Zeros died. By noon, Wave 3 was gone. 47 launched. 18 returned. The ocean below was littered with debris, burning oil slicks, life rafts, men swimming. Some were American, most were Japanese. Rescue vessels moved between them, picking up survivors, friend and foe alike. Wes didn't think about that, couldn't think about that. He landed, refueled, rearmed. At 1300, the radar picked up Wave 4. 82 aircraft, the last major strike of the day. Wes was too tired to be afraid. He launched, climbed, waited for the call. This time the Japanese were desperate. The Zeros didn't just escort, they hunted. Aggressive, pushing forward. One of them found Wes before he could set up as bait. Head-on pass. Both fighters firing. Closure rate 700 knots. Wes held the trigger. Tracers converged. The Zero's propeller exploded. The engine seized. The Zero flashed past. 10 feet. Close enough that Wes felt the turbulence. His first kill. His own kill. No time to think about it. Another Zero. This one on his 6. He called it. Dutchman, I've got one on me. Brake right. Wes broke. The Zero followed. But Wes didn't try to outturn it. He pulled up instead. Vertical. Trading speed for altitude. The Zero tried to follow. Pulled its nose up. Climbed. But the Zero was slower now. Its climb rate lower. Its energy bleeding. Wes rolled inverted at the top. Looked down. The Zero was below him. Mushing. Stalling. Wes dove. Pulled lead. Fired. 50 caliber rounds shredded the Zero's wing root. Fuel tank. Fire bloomed. The Zero rolled. Fell. The pilot didn't bail out. Splash 2. Kowalski's voice. Kid, you're a natural. Wes didn't feel natural. He felt numb. By 1400, Wave 4 was broken. 82 launched. 41 returned. The rest fell into the sea. The task force emerged untouched. Not a single American ship hit. Not even near missed. Total Japanese losses for the day, 350 aircraft. More than 3/4 of their entire strike force. American losses, 30 aircraft. Most from operational accidents, only 6 from enemy action. The Battle of the Philippine Sea would go down in history by another name, the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. And Wes Holbrook, the farm boy from Nebraska, had 6 kills, ace in a day. But the war wasn't over. At 1600, a scout plane from USS Enterprise reported contact. The Japanese fleet, located 275 miles west-northwest, 9 carriers, 5 battleships, 13 cruisers, retreating. Admiral Mitcher faced a choice: launch a strike, maximum range. The aircraft would have to return at night. Many wouldn't make it, or let them go. Mitcher chose to strike. The word came down at 16:15. All available strike aircraft armed for anti-ship. Launch at 16:30. Wes was in the ready room, drinking coffee, his 3rd cup. It tasted like oil. Kowalski walked in, looked around. Who's too tired to fly? Silence. Bullshit. Half of you are falling asleep standing up. I need honest answers. A pilot raised his hand, then another. 4 total. Kowalski nodded. Good, you 4 stay. Rest. Everyone else, we're going after the carriers. Wes stood. His legs barely held him. Kowalski looked at him. "You've already flown 4 missions today. I can do one more. This is different. 275 miles. That's at the edge of our range. We'll be flying back in the dark. A lot of planes won't make it. A lot of pilots will ditch or crash trying to land on a dark deck." "I understand, sir." "Do you?" "Because once we launch, there's no turning back. We either make it to the Japanese fleet, drop our ordnance, and fly home on fumes, or we swim." "I understand, sir." Kowalski sighed. "Then gear up. We launch in 15. The strike package was massive. 216 aircraft, 95 Hellcat fighters, 54 Helldiver dive bombers, 51 Avenger torpedo bombers, plus spares. The largest American carrier strike since Midway. Wes manned his Hellcat at 1625, number 17, same plane, same engine, now with 15 bullet holes patched across the wings and fuselage. The plane felt different now, familiar, like it knew him. He strapped in, started the engine, ran through the checklist. Behind him, an Avenger bomber was being armed with a Mark 13 torpedo, 2,000 pounds, enough to break a carrier in half. The launch started at 16:30. One by one, the strike package catapulted into the afternoon sky. Hellcats first, then Helldivers, then Avengers. Wes launched at 16:38. The acceleration slammed him back. The catapult stroke ended. The Hellcat dropped, caught air, climbed. He joined the formation. 216 aircraft. The sky was thick with them, a swarm heading west, chasing the setting sun. Kowalski's voice: "All aircraft maintain cruise speed. We've got a long way to go. Conserve fuel. Stay tight." The flight was surreal. Below the ocean stretched endlessly, blue-gray, no landmarks, no references, just water. At 50 miles, Wes checked his fuel gauge, half full. At 100 miles, 1/3. At 150 miles, 1/4. And they still hadn't reached the Japanese fleet. Pilots started reporting bingo fuel, not enough to make it back. Kowalski's voice: "Stay with the strike. We'll figure out the return later." At 250 miles, the Japanese fleet appeared on the horizon. Shapes, silhouettes, ships. And in the center, the carriers. Wes counted them. 1, 2, 3, 4, visible. 1 was burning, already hit by the first wave of attackers. That was Hio, the escort carrier converted from a luxury liner. Flames poured from her flight deck. She was listing, dying, Kowalski called it. Fighters set up SIAP. "Keep the Zeeks off our bombers. Dive bombers hit the carriers, torpedo planes same. Let's finish this." The strike descended. Wes stayed high, circling, watching for enemy fighters. A handful of Zeros appeared, maybe 20. All that remained of the Japanese carrier air wings. They tried to intercept, but they were outnumbered 5-1. Wes didn't engage. He watched. Below, the Helldivers rolled into their dives, 70-degree angle, screaming down. Anti-aircraft fire erupted. Black puffs, tracers, red, white, green. The first bombs hit. Carrier Zuikaku. 2 bombs, 1 near miss. Flames, carrier Chiyoda. 1 bomb, flight deck cratered. And then the Avengers came in, low, fast, skimming the wave tops. The torpedo bombers from Kalinin Bay went after Hio, the dying carrier. Wes watched them approach. Steady, professional, anti-aircraft fire intensified, a wall of steel. 1 Avenger exploded, just disintegrated mid-flight. Another took hits, staggered, kept going, dropped its torpedo, then cartwheeled into the sea. But 3 torpedoes reached Hio. 2 hits, massive explosions. The carrier's back broke, literally broke. The hull bent, cracked. Hio was finished. As the strike turned for home, Wes saw her rolling over, capsizing, men jumping into the water. He thought about the Japanese pilots he'd killed today. 6 of them, probably kids like him. Farmers, fishermen, clerks, drafted, trained, sent to die. He felt nothing. Just empty. The flight back was a nightmare. Darkness fell fast in the tropics. By 1830, the sun was gone. The sky turned black. 216 aircraft tried to find their way home. In the dark. With dwindling fuel, pilots started calling Mayday. Bingo fuel, ditching. Engines running rough. Not gonna make it. Where the hell is the fleet? At 1900, someone spotted lights. The American carriers had turned on their searchlights, risking Japanese submarines, risking everything to bring their pilots home. Wes saw Kalinin Bay's lights, 5 miles, 4, 3. His fuel gauge read empty, the needle buried below zero. He was flying on fumes. 2 miles, the engine coughed, sputtered, caught again. 1 mile, the engine quit, propeller windmilling. Silence except for wind noise. Wes trimmed for glide, aimed for the carrier deck. 500 feet, 400, 300. The landing signal officer waved his paddles. Cut signal. Wes had no power to cut. He was already dead stick. The deck rushed up. Wes flared. The Hellcat dropped, slammed down. He caught the 2-wire. The Hellcat stopped. Wes sat in the cockpit, hands shaking, heart hammering. Deck crew ran up, unstrapped him, pulled him out. "You okay, Ensign?" Wes nodded, couldn't speak. Around him, other planes were landing. Some made it, some didn't. Crashes, barrier strikes. One Hellcat missed all the wires and went over the side. By 2100, the recovery was over. Of 216 aircraft launched, 130 returned, 80 ditched at sea, 49 air crews killed. But they'd crippled the Japanese fleet. 3 carriers sunk, Hyo, Taiho, Shokaku, 2 oilers sunk, and most importantly, 445 Japanese aircrew dead. The Japanese carrier air force was finished, destroyed. It would never recover. In the ready room, pilots collapsed in chairs. Some cried, some laughed, some just stared. Kowalski found Wes, handed him a cup of coffee. 6 kills, first day of combat. "Yes, sir?" "Your tactics saved lives today. Maybe 100 pilots, maybe more." "It was your tactics, sir." "No, it was yours. I just trusted you enough to try it." And Wes sipped the coffee. It was cold. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now? We do it again, tomorrow, and the next day, until they surrender or we run out of ocean." "How long will that take?" Kowalski looked at him. Tired, old beyond his years. "However long it takes, kid. However long it takes." Outside in the darkness, men were still swimming, American, Japanese. It didn't matter. The rescue destroyers moved among them, pulling them from the water, saving who they could. On the deck of Kalinin Bay, someone started playing a harmonica. A slow tune, something about home. Wes closed his eyes. Tomorrow there would be medals, congratulations, reports. Tomorrow they would call the tactic Holbrook Scissors and teach it to every fighter pilot in the Pacific. Tomorrow the war would continue, but tonight, for just a moment, Wes Holbrook let himself feel something other than fear. He felt pride. June 21st, 1944. The sun rose over the Philippine Sea like nothing had happened. Like the ocean below wasn't littered with the debris of 2 air forces, like 800 men hadn't died in the previous 48 hours. Wes woke in his rack at 05:30. He hadn't slept, not really, just stared at the overhead, listening to the ship's hull creak, replaying the previous day frame by frame. 6 kills, a night landing on fumes, the sight of Hyo breaking in half, the faces of Japanese pilots, young faces, terrified faces. Just before he killed them, he swung his legs out of the rack. His body ached, shoulders, back, neck. The G-forces from combat maneuvering had bruised him internally. In the head, he splashed water on his face, looked in the mirror. He looked different, older. Something in the eyes. 47 hours of flight time, 1 day of combat. And everything had changed. At 0600, Captain Vickers summoned him to the bridge. Wes climbed the ladders. His legs felt heavy. He'd flown 5 missions yesterday, more than 12 hours in the cockpit. Vickers was standing by the chart table. Commander Kowalski was there too, and someone else. A captain Wes didn't recognize, 3 stripes, from the task force staff. "Ensign Holbrook, this is Captain Gardner. He's here from Admiral Mitcher's staff," Wes saluted. "Sir?" Gardner looked him up and down. "You're the one who developed the bait tactic." "Ah, Sir, Commander Kowalski and I." "I've read Commander Kowalski's report. He credits you with the concept, says you observed enemy behavior and adapted mid-combat. Is that accurate?" Wes glanced at Kowalski. Kowalski nodded slightly. "Yes, sir. I noticed the Zeros bled speed in turns, thought maybe we could exploit that. And it worked." "Yes, sir." Gardner tapped the chart table. "The task force shot down 350 Japanese aircraft yesterday. Our losses were minimal. Your tactic accounted for an estimated 40 to 60 of those kills, possibly more. The ripple effect of breaking up the Zero escorts allowed our fighters to focus on bombers. Do you understand what that means?" "Sir, aye." "It means you changed the outcome of the battle. A 19-year-old ensign with less than 50 hours flight time changed the largest carrier air battle in history." Wes didn't know what to say. Gardner continued. "Admiral Mitcher wants this tactic formalized, written up, distributed fleet-wide. We're calling it Holbrook's Scissors. You'll be working with our tactics division to develop training protocols." "Sir, I have missions to fly." "Not today. Today you're grounded. Doctor's orders. You flew 5 combat missions yesterday. You need rest." "But—" Kowalski cut him off. "That's an order, Ensign. Take the day, sleep, eat, write up your tactic. Tomorrow we'll need you again," Wes saluted. "Yes, sir." As he turned to leave, Gardner spoke again. "One more thing, Holbrook. Commander Kowalski has recommended you for the Navy Cross. Captain Vickers has endorsed it. So have I. You should know that." Wes stopped. The Navy Cross. Second only to the Medal of Honor. "Sir, I don't deserve—" "That's not for you to decide. You did your job. You did it well. Accept the recognition." "Yes, sir." Wes spent the morning in the wardroom writing. He'd never written a tactical manual before. Didn't know where to start. He began with what he'd observed. Zeros turn tighter than Hellcats. Turning bleeds speed. A slow zero is a dead zero. Then the concept. 2-plane element. Bait and shooter. Timing. Communication. Trust. He wrote for 3 hours. His hand cramped. The words felt clumsy, technical. Kowalski read it over lunch. "This is good, but it's missing something." "What, sir?" "The why. You explain how it works, but not why it works, not the psychology." "Psychology?" Kowalski leaned back. "Japanese pilots are trained to dogfight. It's their culture, Bushido, close combat. They see a slow target, they attack. It's instinct. Your tactic exploits that instinct. Makes them commit to a fight they can't win. You need to explain that." Wes thought about it, added a section. Cultural factors, enemy doctrine, predictable behavior. By 1400, the manual was done. Captain Vickers read it, approved it, sent it up the chain. Within a week, Holbrook's Scissors was being taught to every fighter squadron in the Pacific Fleet. Within a month, it had accounted for an additional 127 confirmed kills. But that was later. On June 21st, Wes just slept. He slept for 16 hours. Dreamless, exhausted. When he woke, it was June 22nd. The task force was steaming east. The invasion of Saipan was proceeding. The Japanese fleet had retreated. The battle was over. America had won. The cost was tallied. 49 American aircrew killed, mostly in the night recovery, ditching, barrier crashes. One pilot had successfully ditched, survived the impact, but drowned before rescue arrived. His name was Lieutenant Daniel Reeves, 23 years old, from Boston. He'd shot down 4 Zeros on June 19th. Wes had met him once, in the ready room. They'd talked about baseball, the Red Sox, Ted Williams hitting .406 before he enlisted. Now Reeves was gone. The Japanese losses were catastrophic. 445 aircrew dead, 3 carriers sunk, Hikyo, Taiho, Shikaku. 2 oilers, thousands of sailors, but more than the ships, more than the men, Japan had lost its carrier air force, the trained pilots, the experienced aviators, the core of their naval aviation. They would never recover. Intelligence reports confirmed it. Japanese training programs couldn't replace the losses. New pilots were being rushed through with minimal instruction, 50 hours, 30 hours, some with less. The war in the Pacific had turned a corner, not ended, but turned. On June 25th, Kalinin Bay returned to Eniwetok for replenishment. The crew got liberty, shore leave, a few hours on a coral atoll that was barely more than a sandbar. Wes walked the beach, alone, thinking. He thought about Marcus, his brother, dead in the Coral Sea 2 years ago. He wondered if Marcus had felt this way, empty, numb, proud and guilty at the same time. Kowalski found him, sat down on the sand. "You okay, kid?" "I don't know, sir." "You thinking about the men you killed?" Wes nodded. "Good. That means you're human. The day you stop thinking about it is the day you become something else. Does it get easier? No, but you learn to carry it. You learn to separate the act from the man. You killed enemy combatants. They were trying to kill you.
That's war. It's ugly. It's necessary. And it's not your fault. Feels like my fault. It's not. You didn't start this war. You didn't want this war, but you're fighting it. And you're fighting it well. That matters. They sat in silence for a while. Waves lapped at the shore. Somewhere a radio played swing music. "Sir, can I ask you something?" "Shoot." "How many have you killed?" Kowalski didn't answer right away. He picked up a handful of sand, let it run through his fingers.
31 confirmed, maybe more. I stopped counting after Guadalcanal. "Does it bother you?" "Every day. But I keep flying, because if I don't, someone else has to, and maybe that someone else doesn't come home, so I carry it. And I keep going." Wes understood. Kalinin Bay returned to combat operations in July. The Marianas campaign continued, Tinian, Guam, then the Philippines, Leyte, Mindoro, Luzon. Wes flew 97 more missions over the next 13 months. He shot down 13 more aircraft, bringing his total to 19. He was hit 4 times, took damage, limped home, kept flying. He taught Holbrook's scissors to replacement pilots, green kids just like he'd been, scared, eager, unprepared. He told them the same thing Kowalski had told him. Stay alive. Dead heroes don't shoot down Japs. Some of them listened, some didn't. The ones who didn't died. In October of 44, during the Battle of Leyte Gulf, Wes was flying combat air patrol when he saw something that made his blood run cold. A formation of Japanese kamikaze aircraft, 20 of them, headed straight for the carriers. These weren't regular pilots, these were suicide attackers, one-way missions, deliberate crashes. Wes and his section intercepted. The kamikazes didn't try to fight, didn't try to evade, they just kept coming, straight, steady. Wes shot down 2 of them. Watched them explode, tumble into the sea, but 4 got through. They hit the escort carrier, USS St. Lo. 4 direct hits, the ship exploded, sank in 30 minutes, 114 men killed. Wes landed back on Kalinin Bay, sat in the cockpit, couldn't move. Kowalski pulled him out, physically grabbed his arm, dragged him. "Don't watch, don't think, you did your job, you can't save everyone." But Wes kept thinking, kept watching. St. Lo's survivors in the water, burning oil, screaming. That night he wrote a letter home to his parents. He told them he was okay, told them not to worry, told them he'd be home soon. He didn't tell them about St. Lo, didn't tell them about the kamikazes, didn't tell them he'd killed 21 men and still felt like a failure. In March of 45, Kalinin Bay participated in the invasion of Okinawa, the largest amphibious assault in the Pacific, worse than Iwo Jima, worse than anything. Kamikaze attacks intensified. Hundreds of them, thousands. Wes flew 3 missions a day, sometimes 4, intercepting suicide planes, shooting them down, watching the ones he missed hit ships, kill sailors. On April the 12th, President Roosevelt died. The news reached the fleet that evening. Men stood silent. Some cried. The president had led them through the Depression, through the war, and now he was gone. Vice President Truman took over. The war continued. In May, Germany surrendered. Europe was free. The Pacific kept fighting. In June, Okinawa fell, at terrible cost. 12,000 Americans dead, 100,000 Japanese. And then in August, everything changed. August 6th, a single B-29 dropped a single bomb on Hiroshima. The city vanished, 70,000 dead in an instant. August 9th, Nagasaki, 40,000 more. August 15, Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's surrender. The war was over. Wes was in the ready room when the announcement came over the radio. Emperor's voice, speaking Japanese. Then the translation. We have resolved to pave the way for a grand peace for all the generations to come by enduring the unendurable and suffering what is unsufferable. Silence. Then someone cheered. Then everyone, men hugged, cried, shouted. Kowalski just sat, staring at the radio. Wes sat next to him. We won, Wes said. Yeah. You don't sound happy. I am. I'm just tired. Me too. They sat together. Two men who'd fought across half the world, who'd killed, who'd survived. What are you going to do now? Kowalski asked. Go home, back to Nebraska, help my dad with the farm. You could stay in. The Navy needs men like you. Wes shook his head. I've had enough. Me too, kid. Me too. On September the 2nd, 1945, aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay, Japan formally surrendered. Wes watched from Kalinin Bay's flight deck. The ship was anchored 2 miles away. Too far to see details, but he could see the Missouri, the flags, the ceremony. It was over. Really over. He'd survived. 19 years old when it started, 20 when it ended, 102 combat missions, 19 confirmed kills, 4 aircraft lost, 0 Purple Hearts because he'd never been wounded. Lucky, or good, or both. In October, Kalinin Bay returned to San Diego. The crew lined the rails as they entered the harbor. Families waiting on the pier. Signs, flags, tears. Wes scanned the crowd, saw them, his parents, standing together, his mother crying, his father stone-faced. The ship docked, the brow went over. Sailors flooded off. Wes walked down slowly, sea bag over his shoulder. His mother reached him first, hugged him, sobbing. His father shook his hand, formal, then pulled him into a hug, tight. You did good, son. Marcus would be proud. Wes couldn't speak, just nodded. They drove home to Nebraska, 1,400 miles, 3 days, stopping at motor courts, eating at diners. His parents asked questions, carefully, not pushing. Wes answered some, not all. He told them about Kowalski, about the tactic, about the medal. He didn't tell them about the faces, the men he'd killed, the nightmares he'd started having. On November the 3rd, 1945, Wes walked into the barn on the family farm for the first time in 3 years. It smelled the same. Hay, animals, dirt, earth. He stood there, breathing, letting it wash over him. This was home, not a carrier deck, not a cockpit, not the sky. Here. His father appeared in the doorway, handed him a pitchfork. Stalls need mucking. Wes took the fork, started working. Simple, predictable, safe. No one shooting at him. No decisions meaning life or death. Just work. He could do this. For the next 58 years, he did. Wes Holbrook never spoke publicly about the war. He didn't join veterans organizations, didn't march in parades, didn't tell war stories at the American Legion. He farmed, married in 47 a local girl named Dorothy, raised 3 kids, grew corn and wheat, fixed tractors, lived quietly. But once a year, every year, Commander Dutch Kowalski came to visit. Kowalski had stayed in the Navy, made captain, then rear admiral, commanded carrier groups, trained new pilots, and every summer he drove to Grand Island, Nebraska, stayed at the Holbrook farm for a week, helped with the harvest, talked. They never talked about the war directly, not about the kills, not about the terror. They talked around it, about tactics, about planes, about men they'd known, and slowly over the years the weight became lighter. In 1968, the Navy formalized Holbrook's scissors as official doctrine, published it in the tactical manual, taught it at Top Gun. Kowalski brought Wes a copy. "You're in the manual now permanently." Wes leafed through it, read the description, his name in print. "Feels strange." "You changed how we fight." "That's not strange, that's legacy." "I was just trying not to die." "We all were, but you figured out how. And you taught others. That matters." In 1971, Kowalski had a heart attack. Wes got the call at 3 in the morning. Dorothy drove him to the hospital in Omaha. They arrived at dawn. Kowalski was in ICU tubes, monitors, pale, but awake. Wes sat beside the bed, held his hand. "Hey, kid." "Hey, Dutch."
Some way to go, huh? You're not going anywhere. You're too stubborn. Kowalski smiled, weak. I've had a good run. Longer than most of us deserved. Don't talk like that. Wes, listen, I need to tell you something. What? June 19th, 44, when I let you try that tactic, I thought you were going to die. I really did, but I trusted you anyway because you saw something I didn't. You thought different. Dutch, let me finish. That day you saved lives.
Not just your own, not just mine, but hundreds, maybe thousands over the years. Your tactic became doctrine. It won fights. It brought pilots home. That's your legacy. Not the kills, not the medal, the lives you saved. Wes felt tears on his face, didn't wipe them. "You taught me everything." "I taught you to fly. You taught yourself to think. There's a difference." Kowalski died 3 hours later. Wes spoke at the funeral. Naval ceremony, Arlington National Cemetery, honor guard, 21-gun salute. He kept it short. Dutch Kowalski was the finest officer I ever knew. He trusted a green farm boy with a crazy idea, and when it worked, he gave me the credit. That's who he was, a leader, a teacher, a friend. I wouldn't be here without him. None of us would. After the funeral, young Navy pilots came up to Wes. They knew who he was. "Sir, we still teach Holbrook's scissors. It saved my life in Vietnam. Sir, I wrote my thesis on your tactic. It's brilliant." Wes accepted their thanks, uncomfortable, gracious. But he didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a survivor. The years passed. Wes's kids grew up, moved away, came back for holidays. Dorothy died in 98. Cancer, 63 years old. Wes kept farming, alone now, slower, but still working. In 2003, the Navy invited him to speak at a symposium, Fighter Tactics, Historical Perspective. He declined, but his grandson convinced him. "Grandpa, they need to hear from you," from someone who was there. So Wes went. He stood before 200 naval aviators, young men and women. The age he'd been. He told them about June 19th, about seeing the swarm, about being afraid, about trying something new. He told them about Kowalski, about trust, about teamwork. He told them what he'd learned. War is not about being brave, it's about being smart. And being smart means learning, adapting, trying new things even when you're terrified. On June 19th, 44, I had 47 hours flight time. I was nobody, but I saw something and I spoke up. And someone listened. That's the lesson, and not that I was special, but that anyone can make a difference if they think and if they try. The room was silent, then applause, standing ovation. After young pilots lined up to shake his hand, Wes was polite, humble, tired. The flight home to Nebraska was long. He slept most of the way. In September of 2003, Wesley Holbrook had a stroke. Massive, unsurvivable. He died at home, in his sleep. 78 years old. His funeral was small. Family, neighbors, local veterans, and one Navy captain, Kowalski's son, who'd flown in from San Diego. He presented the family with a flag, gave a eulogy. "My father spoke of Wes Holbrook more than anyone else. He said Wes changed the war, not with strength or heroics, but with thinking, with courage to try something new, and with humility to share it." The Battle of the Philippine Sea was the largest carrier air battle in history. 350 Japanese aircraft shot down. American losses, minimal. And that victory protected 15,000 Marines on Saipan, saved their lives. Wes Holbrook's idea, his tactic, contributed to that. Directly, measurably. Those Marines lived, their children lived, their grandchildren live today. Because a 19-year-old farm boy asked, what if Wes was buried in the family plot? Next to Dorothy, next to his parents, a simple headstone. Wesley James Holbrook, 1925 to 2003, U.S. Navy, World War II. Beloved husband, father, grandfather, no mention of the Navy Cross, no mention of the 19 kills, no mention of Holbrook's scissors, just a name, and dates, and love. But in ready rooms across the Navy, his legacy lives on. Fighter pilots still learn the tactic. Two-plane element, bait and shooter. Simple, effective, proven. They don't always know the name, don't always know the story, but they know it works. And somewhere in the mathematics of war, in the cold calculus of lives, saved and lost, Wes Holbrook's contribution adds up. 47 hours of flight time, 1 day of combat, one idea. June 19th, 1944, the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. 350 enemy aircraft destroyed versus 30 American losses. The disparity wasn't just about better planes or better pilots. It was about better tactics. And those tactics came from asking a simple question. What if we stop fighting their way and fight our way instead? The experts said we need faster planes, better guns, more armor. A 19-year-old said we need smarter tactics. And he was right. That's the lesson. Not that Wesley Holbrook was extraordinary, but that he was ordinary, a farm boy, barely trained, terrified. And he changed the outcome of the war because he thought, because he observed, because he spoke up, because someone listened. The Battle of the Philippine Sea broke the back of Japanese naval aviation. 445 aircrew killed, 3 carriers sunk, the trained pilots, the experienced veterans gone. Japan never recovered. The invasion of Saipan succeeded. B-29s began flying from Mariana airfields in November. Strategic bombing of Japan commenced. The war ended 9 months later. How many lives were saved because Japanese naval aviation was destroyed in June of 44? Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe more. Not all because of Wes Holbrook. The victory was collective, effort of thousands, but his contribution was real, measurable, documented. One idea, at the right moment in the right place. 47 hours, that's all it took. Think about that the next time someone tells you you're too young, too inexperienced, too green. The next time experts say it can't be done, won't work, isn't worth trying. Remember Wesley Holbrook. Remember that on June 19th, 1944, a farm boy from Nebraska with 47 hours of flight time saw something the experts missed and changed history, not because he was special, but because he paid attention, he thought, he tried, and someone gave him the chance. That's the real lesson of the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. Not the tactics, not the technology, but the idea that anyone, absolutely anyone, can make a difference if they think, if they try, if they refuse to accept that this is just how things are done. Wesley Holbrook never wanted to be famous. He never asked for recognition. He went home. He farmed. He lived a quiet life, but his legacy endures. In the ready rooms, in the manuals, in the tactics still taught today, and in the lives saved. 15,000 Marines on Saipan who came home because Japanese air power was destroyed. 100 pilots who learned Holbrook's scissors and survived fights they should have lost. Thousands more across decades who benefited from a tactic that started with one question. What if 2 words? That's all it takes sometimes. What if we try something different? What if the conventional wisdom is wrong? What if there's a better way? Wes Holbrook asked those questions. And the world changed. Your turn.